Greetings, Derek Rydall here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books Emergence and the Abundance Project. And I'm coming to you today to talk about this very important topic, that who you become is up to you always. And who you become determines the life you create. And I want to talk about it obviously in the context of the times we're in, and the context of the things I've been growing through and going through that have continued to prove to me that this is the case, that who we become excuse me, is absolutely 100% up to us. So why is that so important? Because the predominant belief and conditioning is that who we become, and therefore what's possible for us to be and do and create and contribute, is largely connected to our conditions. That if our family is a certain way, if our partner's a certain way, if our kids are a certain way, if the economy's a certain way, if my boss, my job, the government is a certain way, then I can be who I want or create what I want. And it's so important to understand that is 100% false. That doesn't mean there aren't hard things showing up, that there aren't big challenges showing up. But who we become is an inside job 100%. And if you can begin to really grok that, really accept that, really feel the truth of that you are an emergent being, that your seed of infinite potential and purpose is planted in the soil of your soul, and your willingness and commitment to developing and nurturing and cultivating that soil and those conditions for its emergence. And that's the only factor that comes into play here. And that if you have a very difficult situation or condition you're facing, yes, it's difficult. It's like going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. But what happens if you're willing to lift those weights? You tear your muscles, but you get stronger. It's like going to a school and taking a difficult subject. But what happens if you're willing to do that? Your brain gets stretched, new neural pathways are created, it hurts sometimes, but you get smarter. You get stronger, you get smarter, that opens up all kinds of new channels of capacities in you, and you become more of yourself, more of who you could be, through challenge, through difficulty, etc. There's no difference with the challenges we face in our life. Look at Nelson Mandela being wrongfully imprisoned for 26 years, I believe, 23 to 26 years. And as a result, terrible, terrible torture and treatment. But because of his work, because of his commitment and his belief that he was the captain of his soul, that he was ultimately in charge of his destiny, he did not succumb to the fate. He opened up and he did the deep work. And as a result, he became more free, more powerful, more compassionate, more loving, more giving, more creative. And he came out of that to ultimately end apartheid. And instead of bringing bitterness and resentment and keeping that violence in circulation, he was able to put on forgiveness tribunals and lead a nation towards healing. And the same is true for all of the greatest leaders, spiritually, politically, etc., that we look at. Well, then the same is true for us. That whatever the conditions we're in right now, they are the conditions that our soul is calling forth to ultimately allow us to dig our roots deeper and to activate deeper capacities. Okay? Deeper capacities. So when life squeezes you, whatever comes out of you is what was in you, no matter how it squeezes you or who squeezes you. And the first level of the work that we do when we're being squeezed by a condition, an epidemic, a pandemic, an economic crisis, a relationship crisis, etc., is we become curious. We notice, what's coming out of me? Is it anger, bitterness, resentment, judgment, projection, blaming, shaming, guilt, fear, doubt, worry? Wow, that's really good information to know, because that's what was in me. And then we can begin the process of questioning what's in us. The fear tells us we're believing a lie. And the lie is pointing us to a deeper universal truth that we are being now called to apprentice under. The anger shows us that we are actually stepping over our true needs and our voice, and maybe have for a long time. We haven't had healthy boundaries. We haven't really had good self-care. We haven't truly valued, honored, and respected ourselves. We had given away ourselves to others and to conditions for comfort, convenience, safety, or security. And so now the anger is coming up. Oh, great information on the dashboard of my life. I'm stepping over myself and probably have been. What is the real need? What's the voice that hasn't been able to be voiced? Let me hear it. Let me listen to it. Let me see it. Let me meet it. Let me hold it. Let it feel witnessed by me. And then let me meet its legitimate need. And so we begin to notice that. The doubt, the worry, okay, well, that's pointing also to a potential lie that we're believing. Or it's pointing to an area where we are underdeveloped. Meaning, I'm worried about my finances because partly there's a lie, which is there's not enough to go around. And so we need to work on the truth of that and embody that. But it might also be worry because it's pointing to an underdeveloped area. I need to actually become a better steward of my finances. I need to study up. I need to really apprentice under that particular domain. I need to get my books in order. I need to start thinking about my future. I need to have a bigger vision of abundance and start building it, etc. So in other words, the worry, the doubt, the fear, the anger, these are signals on the dashboard that's showing us where the real work and opportunity for growth, healing, expansion, and evolution lie. That doesn't often come up unless we're squeezed. We're squeezed by the crisis, the challenge, the problem. So you see how there's a whole way of being with challenge that makes us bigger, better, stronger, more awake, more liberated, pure channels for life and love and abundance and wisdom. And there's also then judgment. And judgment shows us where we have a shadow, right? If we're judging our other people, obviously we hold that judgment. And that is a reflection of some unrealized or unintegrated part of ourself, right? Whether it's a judgment as in they are too rich, or it's a dark shadow, like they're greedy, stingy, they're mean, they're horrible, they're terrible, they're cruel, they're controlling, they're power hungry, or it's a judgment, or it's a reaction like jealousy or envy. That's a light shadow. Both of them are showing you, and I'm not going to obviously go down the whole rabbit hole of what this is. You can go to my site and get the free shadow process, DerekRydall.com, go into the free resources, or if you are part of the Emergence Academy, you can get a lot of these tools. But I want to just give you the scope and the sense of who we become is 100% up to us. And that the condition that seems to tell us we can't become what we want is exactly the condition we need to discover what is within us. How are we blocking, stopping, resisting, fighting, and holding life back, holding ourselves back from life? Because life doesn't hold itself back from us. We hold ourselves back from life, right? What's missing is what we're not circulating, what we're not allowing to express through us. Always. Because you can always bring more love, more joy, more peace, more beauty, more abundance, more creativity. You can always bring more of you. And when you bring more of you, more begins to manifest in your experience. You get what I'm saying? And it's important to understand the fundamental principles that our conditions do not determine our destiny. Our character does, right? And character is made up of our habits. And our habits are built by what we commit to consistently. And what we commit to is based on our core values and ultimately our vision. So and all of that creates the character that creates the program that ultimately determines the outcomes, that becomes your thinking, your acting, your words, and the frequency in your field that manifests the life you want or don't want. But it's all coming from yourself. It's all a manifestation of your character, which is why Gandhi said we must be or become the change we want to see in the world. But if you notice, all the agency or all the locus of control is within us. If I don't like who I'm becoming, or I don't like my experience, I have to ask, well, who would I have to be to have the experience I want? Or if I was living the experience I want, who would I be? How would I think? How would I feel? What would be my habits of thought, of feeling, of speaking, and of doing? And then we begin to take those qualities and build those habits in the midst of crisis and challenge. Like I talk a lot about my waiter story for those of you that know, where I was at this job from hell and I decided to bring the me that I would be living if I was living my vision. And I got fired 3 times and I finally left. But during that time, I was digging my roots. I was embodying these truths. I was showing up. And eventually I stopped waiting and started serving. I started bringing what I wanted to bring. I started being who I wanted to be. And I felt great by the end. But it wasn't a fit. So the universe moved me into an opportunity that was. And the result was I went from making $50 a day to $1,000 a day. I went from working in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined in 5-star restaurants. But the change happened in the midst of the challenge because I took back my agency. I became who I wanted to be. I became more congruent with the person I would be if I was living the life I wanted, right? So that's the power you have even now in an epidemic or a pandemic or global crisis. That's the power I have and have had during one of the most, if not the most, tragic experiences of my life, which is the loss of my son. That could have been an experience, and believe me, there was times where it tempted me to say, that's it, I'm out. I quit. This is bullshit. There is no God, there is no life, there is no truth. It's all BS. And I thought those thoughts, let me be honest. But because of my practice and because of the knowing of the principles, I could hold those parts of me. I could let them wail and gnash. I could let them move through me, the energy in motion or emotion. But because of the roots I had built and the commitment to be an instrument of God, love, truth, no matter what, because of the commitment, more than I want to change, fix, or manipulate conditions, I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to awaken to ultimate reality and be an instrument of love, truth. Because of that commitment and those practices, it carried me. It opened me up to grace. It allowed me to stay present. And then it ultimately allowed me to be even more available to love my son more, to love God more, to love life more, to love you more, to love me more, to just to be a pure instrument of love and of life. In other words, my character is shifting for the better. As opposed to if I believed I was a victim, then that's how people end up bitter and regretful and resentful, and they shrink their capacities and their life becomes stagnant. They're doing that to themselves, not the condition. You see? The condition is actually neutral. It's the meaning we assign it, and it's the choices and decisions we make as a result of it that will determine if we become more of what we want, if we truly evolve, the adaptive sense of evolution, where we use the challenge of life to become more of who we are, or if we adapt downward, the wrong kind of adaptation, where we shrink to fit the condition, then on the other side of that, we're smaller, we're less evolved, and less life can move through us. And that shows up as more mental, emotional, physical, financial, relational challenges. You see? So you are the one and only person who determines who and what you become. And who and what you become is what determines your outcome, your destiny. And now more than ever, we are being given the opportunity to become more of who and what we really are. So my invitation to you is make that commitment. Bless the situations you're in. Bless all the challenges and commit. More than I want to fix, change, or manipulate anyone or anything, I want to know the truth that makes me free. I want to be a greater instrument of life and truth and love and potential. I call forth my divine plan to be realized fully in this incarnation, not in spite of the condition, but even because of it. I'm available, life. Use me. I'm willing, God. Heal my unwillingness. I believe. Heal my disbelief. I'm willing. I'm ready. I'm available. Let's do this. Feel that energy. Feel that commitment. Commit to yourself every day. And then open up to, all right, how can I go about beginning to practice this and embodying this and becoming the change I want to see in the world? So I hope this serves you. Share below, what is your commitment? What is the vision you want to live into and lean into and live from versus what is the problem merely that you think has to be solved first? What's the vision? What's the dream? What's the goal? What's the desire? Who do you want to become and how do you want to create? Comment below so that we can together give that frequency and that vision love. And where 2 or 3 are gathered in agreement, there I am in the midst of them, meaning there the highest pattern of potential emerges. It's been called the Christ. It's been called the Buddha mind, the Atman. If you're a Christian, it's Jesus, it's the Christ. And that's beautiful and that works perfectly. If you're not, just know that what it means esoterically is God as you, the highest idea and potential in you. That's what begins to emerge when we come together and come into agreement of universal principles of truth. So I love and appreciate you. Stay connected, stay in tune, stay engaged, love yourself, support each other, and let's take our life and this world to the next level together. Until next time, remember to live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny. Take care.